Hey team, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian, core design engineer with Brunswick Bowling, and today we're giving you a little more detail about the brand new Torpedo and Torpedo Direct Hit. They both contain the same asymmetrical torpedo core. They both contain the same asymmetrical torpedo core that is brand new to the Radical lineup. We're going to talk a little more about detail about that core, and we're going to get into the motion comparison chart and see where these two fall relative to the other products. Apologies that this video did not come out sooner. Busy work schedule, busy life, but you guys understand. But in the meantime, there has been a lot of content on Radical Bowling's Facebook page where you've of course have the Throwbot video, but more than that, we have Perception versus Reality, the podcast with Nick and Phil. Steve Freshour, our resident core designer for Radical Bowling, was on to talk about the Torpedo core at length. And also I did a Radical rundown where you can find information all about the lineage of this core and how it's progressed from previous cores in the asymmetrical lineup for Radical. So make sure you check out Radical's Facebook or YouTube page, find Perception versus Reality, Data Talks with Stevie Freshour, and of course the Radical rundown with myself, Brian Buckosh, on this Torpedo asymmetrical core. So because of all that other detail, feel free to look those up. I'm not going to get into too much detail about this core, except to remind you that the undrilled numbers are 248. That's on the fast side of medium revving for RG. For the differential undrilled 054 and intermediate differential 17. So relative to the asymmetrical balls that surround this core, this is about the strongest that is currently in the Radical lineup. And of course it's got a big nose on the front of it, just like the Katana series cores do, so after drilling these numbers can get huge. That's a perfect segue to remind you that you can find the after drilling numbers of course on the sheet in the ball box, but also by going to radicalbowling.com, clicking on Torpedo or Torpedo Direct Hit, scrolling all the way down to the resources tab, and there you can find both the link to download the drilling instructions, but also to download the comparison chart. And we're going to take a look at the comparison chart right here. The layout of this chart is very simple. Two axes, one for the amount of volume that the balls are built to handle, and the other axis for the sharpness of the breakpoint, or in other words, the way that the ball responds to friction when it encounters it. And you can see the brand new Torpedo and Torpedo Direct Hit are very far opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of ball motion. The Direct Hit being a very light oil option with a relatively smooth overall motion, and the HK22C cover stock on that Torpedo being a very strong reactive cover stock. Although both of these balls are very shiny compound finish, you notice that the Torpedo is much sharper and handles much more total oil volume than the Direct Hit. It's not even close. So we'll start by looking at the reactive Torpedo, the pearlized reactive HK22C cover stock on this one. Now with this brand new Torpedo core and the strength of the mid lane that it offers, even though this is a pearlized cover stock, I think you'll be surprised to find how much late mid lane security and how much change of direction in the late mid lane that you get out of this one. It's not just back end motion, but it's really gluey in the mid lane. That makes this Torpedo a better option than the other pearlized asymmetrical balls in the lineup, such as the Hitter Pearl, or prior to that even the Outer Limits Pearl, at being usable on more fresh conditions, more heavier conditions, and of course if you're speed dominant, you're going to want to gravitate towards something like a Torpedo as an option for an asymmetric pearl as opposed to some of the other ones, just because of the strength of the mid lane that this one offers is going to get the ball to read early enough for you, and as a speed dominant player, of course, that's what you're looking for. But for a wide range of players, I think this one is going to be very effective at different times of the day. If you're a heavy-handed player and you can really hook the ball, I think you might be surprised at how early in the block and on how much oil you can use a shiny asymmetric pearl such as the Torpedo. And of course, if your speed and rev rate match, then you should have no problem using this one as your second ball down when you want to get in. The head oil is still relatively fresh, but maybe there's a little more friction in the mid lane. You can step in away from some of your stronger sanded bowling balls and let this one bounce off of the friction and recover early in transition. Torpedo Direct Hit is something that's really new and unique in the marketplace right now. A strong asymmetric core surrounded by a really high hardness, low friction reactive cover stock, something that you only usually see on the low end, almost like polyester but not quite. There's a competitor that has some balls in the market that are used as spare balls that are not polyester. We have our own line of axe balls in the Hammer lineup that has a really similar cover stock to this one. In fact, the chemistry is built on the backbone of the axe series inside the Hammer balls, but of course those have a tiny little puck in them, and at best those maybe have 10 total differential, probably even less than that at most weights, and no intermediate differential. So compared to the monster of a core that's inside this one, those balls really have no chance to hook that much, but more than that, they really don't have a chance to go through the pins as a strike ball like this Torpedo Direct Hit does. Now, of course, you can use this one as a spare ball if you so choose, but it does have a little bit of tailing, a little bit of hooking at the back end of the lane, so you are going to want to flatten your hand a little bit if you're shooting 10s or 7s. But more than that, I think this one has really surprising utility as a urethane alternative, or just a light oil reactive ball alternative on really fried, beat up conditions, or really short or lighter volume sport shots where you want to play really right and really direct. The word direct is written right on the ball, so it really clues you in as to what you're supposed to be doing. If you're going to take this ball around to sport shot tournaments, which I honestly highly recommend as a different shape relative to a symmetrical core in a urethane ball, I recommend sanding this one, maybe cut the box finish off of it with something aggressive like 500 before putting like mid grit, say 1500 or 2000 on top of that. With this, you're gonna get a late strong mid lane read, but a ball that blends a little better, isn't too squirty on the misses, and it doesn't overreact too hard to friction. If you're able to blend it, then what you're gonna end up with is a ball that's just still a little cleaner than urethane in terms of the front part of the lane, but when it slows down and changes direction, it does so much more abruptly, that classic asymmetrical hook set motion. And of course, hook set might be just what the doctor ordered on some of the short, medium short, or lighter volume sport patterns. That's definitely going to give you a different look compared to the Purple Hammers or the 78Ds of the world. So it's kind of crazy that despite the fact that both of these balls have the exact same core in them, they're at complete opposite ends of the ball motion spectrum. This really pushes the range of what balls are in the current Radical lineup. There's nothing in the Radical lineup right now that ever fit between a Spy and a urethane-like ball, such as the Rattler New, and now we have something in that place. Looking at the reactive Torpedo, you notice that this is one of the strongest and sharpest asymmetrical balls that Radical has ever made. This is stronger than a Katana series ball, but it still back ends without giving up and getting too forward. A very strong reaction overall with the aid of the cohesion additive inside the HK22 cover base. This is one of the strongest covers that we've wrapped around any bowling ball in our brands, bar none. Both of them are available at your local pro shop starting right now. Swing in and grab them. Since you're here, make sure you are already subscribed to my YouTube or Facebook page, Bowling Buckosh. And of course, if you have any questions about these particular balls or any ball in the current Radical lineup, feel free to drop a comment below. I'm happy to respond to any of your questions when I have the time. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.